Howdy ho, neighbors. Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Daily. It is Saturday, March 11th. Early in the morning, I just woke up. My hair's not looking great. Not looking great. I'm going to be honest. The hair's not looking great, but it's also getting pretty thin. Starting to bald. Starting to thin, recede, whatever it is. It's coming. It's going to get me. I got a little peanut head. It's not going to be good. If I'm being honest, at a certain point, you just got to rock the bald head. It is what it is. But part of me wouldn't mind just rocking a wig, just being that guy. People are like, "Are you wearing a wig?" And I'll be like, "Yes, I am." Looks pretty good, huh? We'll see. I don't know if I can become a baseball cap kind of guy. Hats don't fit my head very well. But that aside, happy to be here. Saturday morning. It's early. I am feeling a little bit odd, a little bit weird. I am currently 36 hours into a fast. Why, you may ask? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I usually fast. I try to fast for 2-ish days a couple times a year, and it usually stems from me eating poorly for an extended period, and it's kind of like my weird self-discipline on myself. You go, look, you know what? You eat too much bad stuff, you don't get to eat for a while. I guess that's what I'm doing. I do find benefits from it. I think it's a good reset, but it is, I don't know. I like it. Maybe. It's okay. I'm currently at the point where once you hit like 36 hours, it's kind of not as hard. You're not craving as much. But I would like to go for a run today or exercise, but I don't know if that would be a good idea. I am drinking coffee. Some people might say you're not allowed to do that. Well, I'm having coffee. I'm doing it. But what have I been up to? It's been busy. Like I said, I've started a new job a couple weeks ago, so getting used to that schedule. Trying to balance the new job with comedy. Been trying to get out to a few more open mics recently. Going through stuff. I've been so busy I haven't been able to write a ton, so I'm kind of trying to rework some old jokes. Last week I did my first Don't Tell show, Don't Tell comedy. Super fun. Very good. I mean, I've heard nothing but great things and how the crowds are just big comedy crowds, and they absolutely were. I mean, it's kind of best case scenario for what you're looking for. Kind of similar to Comedy Works or any very hot room where just you tell the jokes and people are into it. And that's always fun. So I was excited to do that. Yeah, that's kind of the only show I've done in the last week or so. I've got a couple week gap before my next shows. I'm going to do a weekend at Hotel Boulderado, hosting, I think, 4 shows there. That'll be fun. I'm excited for that. I haven't hosted as much recently, and so I would like to get more of that. I actually need to look into trying to set up some more local shows, producing and hosting again to get more experience there and just to have more stuff on the schedule. It's nice to fill out the calendar and feel busy. So that's fun. And then moving forward a little bit, very excited to kind of finally somewhat announce a solid run of shows in Virginia. I'll be going back next month in April to Virginia to perform and do a little tour with good buddy Edward Bell. And I've been working so busy the last couple months just trying to set all that stuff up. It's been actually a pretty big headache. It's been a bit of a struggle. But got everything together. Going to be going out there. I'm going to be driving out there, bringing all the equipment and stuff. That'll be a long drive to the East Coast, 20, 24, 26 hours, something like that. And yeah, going to do a show starting off in Raleigh, North Carolina on the 12th. That'll just be a showcase. That'll be the only one that we won't be producing. But then from April 13th until April 20th, have 8 dates starting in, I think, Roanoke the 13th, Lynchburg the 14th, Arrington, Virginia on the 15th, Richmond the 16th. The 17th is Yorkshire, just outside of Manassas. 18th is Columbia, Maryland. 19th is Woodbridge, Virginia. And then the 20th is Winchester. So very excited for that. That'll be the longest run of shows I've ever done. 9 shows in a row if you count Raleigh. And then at the end of that month, going to be doing a comedy festival in Pennsylvania, the Flagship City Comedy Festival. So very excited for April. It's going to be a busy month. Get the opportunity to do some longer sets for, multiple days in a row, 8 days in a row. So that'll be good to work out the longer set, work out the kinks. So that's kind of what I'm working on and planning to work on over this next month, is just trying to figure out the right flow of jokes, the right, what's the word I'm looking for? The right order. Wow. You would have thought I was searching for a big word there, but the right order with the jokes, trying to find the good way to start, good middle stuff, good way to end, transitions, punching up jokes that maybe need a little help. So I'll be working on that over this next month. So excited for that. That should be a fun time. As far as other comedy stuff, what else? Like I said, I'm hitting up open mics, trying to work on older jokes. I need to start writing more. I'll have more time here after this weekend. Like I said, the last couple months has been really getting a new job, getting acclimated to that, and a lot of my free time has just gone towards emailing and scheduling and setting up this tour. So looking forward to getting back to a little bit more of the creative process, which is the fun part, which is writing jokes and working out jokes. So we'll see. Maybe I'll write about fasting. And I don't know. I feel like I've tried to joke about fasting before, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't figure it out. But maybe this will be the time. It is very early in the morning, 8:30. I woke up. I was trying to set my TV up to watch some golf. It's the Players Championship. And ESPN, which is what streams it, would not load. So that's, what can you do? Didn't work. I was also watching some videos about Destiny 2, the video game. I haven't played that in a while, but I saw it pop up and I was interested. There was a new update. So I was watching some of that. And I tell you, I used to play a lot of Destiny. Back in 2013, that kind of consumed my life. I remember I would go to work. Before work, I'd get up early. I'd play for like an hour. I'd go to work, and then I'd come back and then just play for like 4+ hours. And boy, does that make your life unproductive when you're doing that. But I've done a lot of that. When I was in college, I played a bunch of video games. Only Halo, basically. If you're familiar with Halo, if you're not, it's a first-person shooter. Xbox game, came out originally with the original Xbox like in 2001, maybe. And I never played it till I got to college, 2006. And once I started playing, boy, let me tell you what, I did not stop playing. If I look back to college, as fun as college was, with the social aspect and meeting people and going out and having a good time, man, did I waste a lot of time playing Halo in video games. It was a fun time, though. I remember, I mean, I hate to say this out loud, but I feel like I played 8 hours a day, a lot of days. And I think we can all agree that's too much. That's a little too much. I remember Halo 3, there's now 6 games maybe. I basically started playing Halo right before Halo 3 came out. So essentially when Halo 3 came out, that's when I got really into it. But I remember playing when it first came out in my dorm with a good friend. And we played from 10 p.m. until 7:45 a.m., at which time we had to go to our 8 a.m. classes. We played all night long. Not only did we play all night long, we played in my dorm where my roommate was sleeping, so we played on mute and just sat in silence, playing for 10 hours straight. Then I went to Starbucks, got a caramel frappuccino. I was like, this will keep me awake for the day. Went to my 8 a.m. class. Got back from that, went to sleep for the rest of the day. Skipped every other class. It was a real amateur move. Can't do that. That was what college was, though. Just staying up late. And man, if I knew what I knew now, I wonder if they teach this now in high school. If they're like, hey kids, when you go to college, you're going to really want to stay out late and do these things, but it's literally almost impossible to focus and be productive when you treat your body in a negative way like that. If you're not getting sleep, if you're drinking, if you're eating poorly, your brain is going to fight back. I mean, I remember freshman year having finals and being like, you have to study. And I went and I bought a Mountain Dew. I chugged that and then tried to study and was like, why can I not study real good right now? Well, I tell you what, probably the 50 grams of sugar that went in my gullet and sat in my belly like a sugar rock, that probably didn't help. Guatemalan coffee. Pretty good. Not bad. Man, I tell you what, I'm addicted to coffee at the moment. I'm drinking way too much. The new job, I'm just down in it. And I know I shouldn't, but it's one of those things where you're like, I'm tired. I need something to just get me through the next hour. Just coffee. It's probably not, I don't know. Drinking too much coffee while fasting. Here in about 20 minutes, I'm probably going to be tweaking out. We'll see. But yeah, back to the Halo. So I used to play all the time, and so I stayed up all night. I probably did that a handful of times, but that was my sophomore year when I was still in the dorms. And then when I moved into an apartment my junior year, I mean, it totally went off the rails. I hope my parents aren't listening to this, but I skipped a couple classes. And by a couple, I mean quite a few. Because I was like, I want to play Halo. I would literally get up and just turn that sucker on, play all day. I played so much and was like so obsessed with keeping it going that I remember buying cereal for my meals. And instead of eating cereal out of a bowl, I would put cereal into a cup so I could play Halo, and in between deaths, I could eat it. I didn't have any time for a spoon. I was like, I got to play now. It's happening. It was very fun, though. My roommates played in college, so it was a very social game. I mean, I played a lot by myself, but it was very fun to play with roommates, with friends. And I got so obsessed with it that I remember having dreams, which there's very few things I've had dreams about due to repetition of being obsessed with something. I think the first thing I remember having dreams about was the third Harry Potter book. And I remember having dreams about Sirius Black getting wronged. He was in prison and he shouldn't have been. And I had dreams about that. So that was, that's kind of weird. But then in college, I had dreams about getting like triple kills with Halo. Montages were a big thing with Halo. If you're not familiar, like people would edit together montages of clips of like cool sequences of kills. And man, I started dreaming in montages. And then I go to class and I just sit there and they'd be like, all right, open your books to page 20 to learn about debits and credits and accounting. And I'd be like, I don't care about debits and credits. I want that overkill extermination, That's all I was thinking about. MLG, overkill extermination, are you serious? Call me a professional. If you're getting one of those, you're doing big things. These coffee sips that I'm taking, I feel like are probably obnoxious to watch, but the coffee is cold at this point and I got to get it down. Yeah, so spent a lot of time playing Halo throughout college, and then even after college, I played quite a bit as well. I mean, I played all the time. Nowadays, Halo is pretty trash. I'll play it occasionally as a social thing, but it's just not. It's not the same. It is interesting though that I've noticed with Halo becoming obsessed with it. Like that's my personality. I get obsessed with certain things. Throughout my life, I've gotten obsessed and put a bunch of time into a handful of things, and it's hard for me to balance multiple things at once like a normal person. It's kind of all in on whatever that thing is. Like the first obsession I probably had, well, if we go way back, first obsession was probably Pokemon cards. You guys ever see a Pokemon binder with some holographics? Ooh, I tell you what, that'll make you fail out of school. Getting a Charizard, trying to trade that behind the bleachers. Pokemon cards, baseball cards, I was very into those. And I guess it's first maybe mini obsession. I was obsessed with the stats, watching sports. That was kind of all I had. I didn't have cable growing up until I was a teenager. So boy, was it limited stuff. It was Andy Griffith. And, I know that's a classic, but when I hear that whistle song, it makes me upset a little bit. And then, PBS was one of those. I can't remember. Wishbone. I mean, it was a bunch of like shows where you're like, well, I guess this is better than nothing, but not much better than nothing. And then on the weekends, it was sports. And sports was kind of the only thing that I had. So the cards, the baseball cards, basketball cards, football cards, I got very into that. But then moving forward after that, what was my next obsession would have been golf. Started playing high school and golf in high school. I started playing high school and golf, Does that make sense? Not at all. Started playing golf in high school and got pretty obsessed with that. I was playing all the time. I lived right beside a golf course, and I know people think like, ooh, golf, it's expensive, and what, were you rich? No, I wasn't. But if you're a child, if you're a junior, under 18, it was $300 to have a membership for the year. And I would play like every single day. So basically $1 a day. It was pretty cheap. The people at the course hated us. We were bringing them no money at all, just being little morons running around that course. But I did that throughout high school and became very obsessed with it. Playing golf, watching golf, trying to get better at golf. So that was kind of the first obsession. And then I'd say the next obsession was probably I started playing guitar around my senior year of high school, first year of college. Became pretty obsessed with that, with just getting better, learning it. I started writing songs that I would throw up on Pure Volume, a site that's about 15 years old and is no longer around. I think it's still around. It's kind of like MySpace. It's one of those things where like you can punch it in and it'll come up, but it doesn't have, it's not what it used to be. I don't know what it is anymore. But I would write songs And that was kind of, looking back, my first discovery or realization that my brain enjoyed creative things, creating things. I've never been good or interested really in art in the sense of like drawing. I'm terrible at it. But creating music and now doing comedy, very similar as far as creating something. Um, so I never really thought about that too much until doing comedy, and then looking back and being like, oh, I always really enjoyed playing guitar and writing music. I would record a bunch of stuff on just whatever softwares I had. I can't remember the names of them. But it was funny. I remember recording a bunch of stuff, and I was always very shy or like timid to play in front of people. Most specifically to sing in front of people. So I would record when I was living at my family house, my parents' house, and my like siblings would be there too. And I was so embarrassed to sing. I didn't want anybody to hear me. So basically I would like whisper. I'd be like, "Ah, na, 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 na," whisper it. And then I would just boost it in the editing, and it sounded terrible. I remember one time I went out to the driveway, got in my car, took my laptop, and I sang out there. And then my mom, she walked outside to hang some clothes on the clothesline, and I was like, "Ugh, Mom, come on, I can't go anywhere to record." That was an interesting time. I recorded a bunch of garbage songs. I don't know. It was very fun. It was personally fun. I was never, I don't know. There's probably a point where I was like, I'm going to make it big. I'm going to be the next Dashboard Confessional. But that was kind of the next obsession that I had. That was kind of throughout college. And then coming out of college, what was my next obsession? I would say my next obsession was traveling. I started traveling and kind of became obsessed with that, but more specifically learning Spanish, which is a very long process learning another language. It's not like, oh, I'll just dabble with this and then I'm proficient in this language now. No, I ended up moving abroad for a year. One of the main reasons was to pursue and get better at Spanish. So I'd studied for a while before I moved, but then moved to Nicaragua for a year. And did a lot of studying, obviously practicing and getting better in a country that just speaks Spanish. So that was kind of the next obsession, taking lessons, constantly studying, trying to read in Spanish, watching movies, series, news in Spanish. That was definitely a big obsession I had for multiple years, and something I still would like to keep up with. Unfortunately, I don't get to use it, or I don't use it as much as I would like to, and I still feel comfortable enough to speak the language, but certainly vocabulary, like certainly losing little bits over time. I'm not in fear necessarily of totally losing it. Like when I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, fast forward 3 months outside of that time frame, and I knew zero Spanish. Whereas, fortunately, living abroad for a year, I got to a proficiency level where it's like, okay, I don't think I'm going to forget it. But certainly, vocabulary starts diminishing over time just as you're not using it. But that was, I would say, the next obsession. And then, and then the most recent is comedy. And, I've kind of bounced around. But comedy, looking to stay with this one. It's cool. I mean, out of all the others, there was certainly a pathway, with golf. I could have become a professional golfer. With video games, I guess I could have become a professional video game, guitar, a musician, Pokemon cards, could have become a manager at a magic store or something. But with comedy, uh, it's actually the first time I've like actually seen a path, and you can see like start making money from it, and being obviously an adult now versus like when I was younger and kind of didn't understand how to maybe pursue certain things. I see a path to making money and doing comedy full time, uh, which is neat. It's very cool to be surrounded by a bunch of comedians, just everywhere, but specifically where I'm at in Denver, being friends with people who are going full time and actually seeing the path that they're taking. And not only the path that maybe certain friends or people are taking, there's a million different paths you can do. You can become a full time comedian. Obviously, if you get in with the clubs and you're kind of just doing 40 plus clubs a year, you can do cruise ships, you can do colleges, you can do corporates, you can do brewery. I mean, you can set up like what I'm doing in Virginia, doing 8 or 9 shows in a row that I've set up and just kind of make money that way. I mean, granted that's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, what anything you're doing or pursuing is going to involve work. And it's work that pays off. You work behind the scenes to set stuff up to then be able to go have a crowd and do your jokes and have people laugh. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. So it's cool to be around that, to see that, and really almost basically be mentored and get advice from people above you. All these other things I've done, like in golf or in sports or whatever it is, you're not usually so connected to people who are at that top level or people who are like full time. Like when I was golfing, I wasn't around professional golfers where I'm like, hey, how do you do this? What's the path? What are you doing? Not that I would have been able to do it. That's also another cool thing about comedy where like in sports or certain, mostly sports, I guess, but also music, certain things, it's just like, if you're not that good, you just can't do it. With comedy, you can kind of, and I'm not saying this is the ideal thing. Obviously, you should try to strive to be as funny as possible, but you can set a bunch of stuff up and not be that funny, but you set it up and you kind of carve your own path and you can do it. And also, most people, if you do it for long enough, you learn at least enough of the basics to figure out how to be a comedian. Maybe people don't think it's that funny, but at the end of the day, your goal as a comedian is to have people enjoy the show and to laugh. And obviously there's levels of that. There's going to be people who kill, who just destroy, and people, I mean, their stomachs hurt from laughing. And then maybe people will go to a show and pay money and they giggle a little bit and they go, okay, that was okay. But at the end of the day, both of those, the person performing is making money. Now, I feel like I'm saying this and I'm trying to defend and be like, guys, I'm not very funny, but I'm going to make it. No, I don't. I mean, I realize where I'm at and where I stand. I do think I'm funny. I think I have, obviously I want to get as funny as possible and grow. I by no means think I'm the funniest, but also I don't think I'm not scared or under the thought or impression that I'm like duping people out of money to do a show. I feel very comfortable and confident with where I'm at, being 4 years into comedy and figuring out how to do jokes and building the time I have and kind of trying to hit a bunch of different topics, be relatable. And yeah, I mean, I'm very conscious of how important it is to have jokes. And not just have jokes, but have jokes that land hard. Now, certainly, I've got a million things I can get better on, and I look forward to putting in the time and getting better and growing in all those. But I don't really know what started this ramble. I just wanted to. I feel like I talk a lot about bombing and stinking, and it's kind of just like a inside joke of just like it's funny to talk down on yourself, but also I'm not terrible. I am comfortable and confident with where I'm at in comedy. Anyways, this coffee is very cold now. Not very good. Yeah, looking forward to the shows in Virginia. A lot of the shows I set up are at breweries. I guess for my hometown in Lynchburg, we're doing an event space that will be fun. I think it's a capacity of a little bit over 100. So looking forward to that one. In Richmond, doing a brewery, but selling tickets. It's like a side private space with a room that's about a capacity of 100. All the rest, I believe, are breweries and will be free shows. So it'll be interesting. A lot of the runs that I've done in the past, we've done a little bit more of a mixture of breweries, comedy clubs, like community theaters. I mean, one of the last runs I did the basement of a coffee shop, did an art studio. That was actually very fun. Worked with an art studio where we basically just we had a venue bail out at the last second, so we had to find a spot, and the art gallery had like a little bar in the back, so it worked out for both of us where we could use the space for comedy, but they could also sell alcohol to make money on their end. So that was very fun. But this time it's going to be mostly breweries, essentially all breweries, with the exception of the one event space that I mentioned in Lynchburg. And breweries are great. I mean, breweries are very fun. So I'm looking forward to it. A lot of the breweries, it makes it a lot more casual. So it's easier to be like loose and in the moment. Some of those like theaters and stuff like that, it's a little bit more, you got to be on point, and you can be a little more anxious and maybe a little less in the moment, as much as you don't want to do that and you don't want to admit to that. You know, the reality is there's certain situations where you're a little more nervous or the stakes are a little higher, so it can be harder to be goofy and silly and in the moment. But that's what it's all about. It's getting those reps, and then so for the next time you'll be more prepared and more able to rise to the occasion. So looking forward to that. I think for the comedy festival I'm doing at the end of the month in Erie, Pennsylvania, I think the show that I'm doing, I'm not 100% sure, but they sent the schedule, and I think I'm on like the main show in a hotel. So I assume it's like a kind of the big show in a ballroom. I don't know exactly, but I'm looking forward to that. That should be fun. That seems like a good setup for a good comedy show. So looking forward. I've done some other comedy festivals in the past where you get a bunch of different venues, and I've done some less than ideal venues. I did one in Texas where I did a 5 p.m. show outside in September in Texas. So it's basically me just getting sunburn, and then 100 feet away, people in shade, you maybe see them smiling. You're like, this is comedy. I'm making it. People are going to know my name. Sunburn. I tell you what, if I do go bald, sunburn's probably going to be a big issue. It actually is. I've noticed I'll put sunscreen on my face, and I always forget the receding part here, so I'll have a little sunburn triangle, which is always a good look. I don't know. Do people rock wigs? I honestly, I might do it. Might have to try it out. My head is literally, it's so small. If it weren't so small, it'd be so much easier to just buzz it or whatever. But man, it is tiny. The hats don't fit my head. Like hats, I put it on. People are like, yeah, it's fine. I put a hat on. I have to like pull it down, and my ear is like underneath the side by like a lot, not like a little bit. It's like, you got any child hat sizes around? That's a weird thing to ask. It's a nice weekend. It's been good weather. Yesterday was in the 60s. Today's in the 50s. I think I'll go for a walk. I would like to run, but like I said, with this fasting, let me know if you guys fast. I do feel like there's good benefits from it, but a lot of people think it's kind of crazy. I will say a lot of people are like, I can't go 10 hours without eating, which it's like, your body's fine if you go a day. I mean, your body's fine to go multiple days. Most of the hard part is if your body's like addicted to sugar, to whatever it is, you get grumpy and irritable if you don't have that food like right away, if you miss a meal. But once you get beyond that, if you just commit to a fast, once you get beyond like 24 hours, then your body's like, I don't think the sugar's coming. So it kind of just like adjusts. It gets beyond that craving point. And then as cliche as it sounds, you really do hit, at least I've found, like a zen period where your body's no longer thinking about food and the mental clarity really comes through. And I like it. I like when I was going through kind of the toughest part of Lyme disease, kind of the toughest point in my life, dealing with a bunch of stuff from the Lyme disease. I was really, it kind of got me very interested in health and how to optimize your health and your mental clarity. One thing that I really struggled with was brain fog, just not being able to think clearly. It's funny, I was looking through old jokes, and I have a joke about Lyme disease, and I was looking through jokes like when I first started about Lyme and how I was trying to joke about brain fog. I was looking at it last night, trying to see if I could find like anything that I could maybe bring back and use. And I was trying to, what was it? I was trying to be like, yeah, when I had Lyme disease, I had really bad brain fog. And it's never good. Your brain's not meant to deal with unexpected precipitation. I even highlighted it on Microsoft Word because I was like, that's funny. I don't think I can make that work. But brain fog, that was a huge part. Like, there was a million different symptoms I was dealing with, but brain fog was a very big one. And I remember, like, I really struggled to have conversations. Anything that, the more complex it became, the more my brain just couldn't handle it. I remember describing it almost like a fishbowl over my head, where, like, if it's just like, hey, hello, how are you? I can deal with that level. But if it goes into like, hey, here's a conversation where you have to like remember all the things I'm talking about, and like immediately my brain just couldn't handle it. It was very odd. So back to what I was saying, during that time frame, I was going through a lot of issues. So I was very much trying to find ways to optimize my health. Because when you don't have your health, it's easy to take your health for granted. But when you don't have it and you don't have the ability to think clearly and your body's all out of whack, it's like, dude, I just want to feel good. How can I make that happen? So I was looking into a lot of natural medicines and foods, and even to this day, like the Wim Hof breathing exercises, and I guess that's kind of a meditation. But stuff like that is very interesting to me, and I think it's obviously interesting to a lot of people. It's becoming very prevalent with people like Andrew Huberman and and like how to get good sleep and just how to optimize your body. It'll be interesting in the future if we just get like such a good understanding of the human body. If it's just like, here's literally what you have to do to be a peak, to maximize everything and just feel unbelievably good and sleep well and have energy and think clearly and just be your best self. I guess we're kind of moving in that direction and people don't seem to care. People are like, "Oh, I can do these things and feel really good." Yeah, but I want a Big Mac. So, I don't care about that. So, it'll be interesting to see in the future if there's a shift towards that health, assuming that, if we scientifically find out like, hey, if you do these things, like your mental ability and clarity and dopamine, serotonin, all that stuff like actually goes way up here to a point maybe we never realized. We'll find out. Stay tuned for episode 650 of the Weekly Daily, where I break the news of health and science. Yeah, so that's enough rambling on that. I'll tell you a little bit about, like I said, just to continue about what I was talking about before with Virginia, and kind of currently what I'm thinking comedy wise and what I'm trying to focus on. I've said in the past, like trying to work out stories, trying to stay in the moment. Currently trying to work on and think about the order of my jokes. When I go to Virginia and do that kind of run of shows, I'm going to be doing probably 30 plus minutes every show. And so trying to figure out the best order. I was talking to a couple comic friends the other night and picking their brain on getting their thoughts on it. And I think it was good to hear an outside perspective because I had set it up in a way that I thought made sense to flow. And a lot of that was like, I want to end strong. So almost putting like my best jokes in the last 10 minutes. And after talking to the other comics, I think what I'm going to do is come out with my best jokes in my first 10 minutes and then lead into, I have maybe 10 to 15 minute chunk of like kind of more personal stuff. A joke about having Lyme disease, about, just stories that are more personal. And I think that establishing myself as funny in the beginning with good jokes will help the momentum and help people be more invested in those personal jokes, which the personal jokes I think are funny, but also I realize if people aren't invested in me, then they can have the opposite effect. So it's like, I think they're funny, but also if you don't care about me and you're not like attentively listening, they can kind of flop a little bit. And then at the very end, I've got a handful of jokes that will end strong. So I'm going to be working on that order. That's kind of the main thing that I'm thinking about at the moment. As far as reading, I said I was going to talk about books I'm reading, and I thought that would hold me to forcing myself to read more consistently. I've been very busy. Have I mentioned that? With work, with planning for this trip. I will get back to reading. I haven't read as much as I'd like to. So I'm still on the 3-mind problem. I can't even remember the name of the book. That's not good. But instead of talking about that, I'll talk a second about some of the past books that I've read that I haven't mentioned. Some of my favorites, which I'll probably have to read. Again, one of my favorites, John Steinbeck. I've actually read quite a few John Steinbeck. Got very interested in him as an author. I read Grapes of Wrath. I thought that was fine. That's like one of his big ones, and I thought it was fine. But East of Eden was very, very good. I don't even know. It was just something about it. Like, it's not this crazy, interesting thing. It's just written in such a way that just was easy to read, but also captivated. I don't know. Just whatever the formula is to make readers interested, he did it. So that's probably one of my favorite books. But I will say I've read a bunch of John Steinbeck books. Grapes of Wrath was pretty good. East of Eden, really loved. But I've read a couple of his. I was very interested after reading those. I've read some of his earlier stuff, and boy, did he have some stinkers. The Winter of Discomfort. That was actually his last book, I think. I mean, I read that, and my brain was like, "Geez, man, this is like reading scrambled eggs." But then I read some Tortilla Flat. I think I read, which he wrote like in Old English. It was like a mixture of like Shakespearean Old English and not Old English. It was weird. It was pretty bad. But really liked those books. I learned a lot of vocabulary words that I have since forgotten from there. Truculent, that was one that I learned. Truculent, I'm going to be honest, I can't remember what it means. But also cantankerous, I think, which is, I think, a grumpy person. Boy, am I failing you guys on vocabulary words. I know nobody's listening to this, but if you are, and if you're on YouTube, I don't know if you can comment on just the podcast, because I'm putting it up on Spotify, but also on YouTube with the video available. But if you're on YouTube, comment a vocabulary word. Teach me something. Help me get smarter. But I do need to finish the book that I'm reading, and I will, and I'm gonna. But that's where I'm going to end it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let me know if you got any good book recommendations or vocabulary words. And I'll see you guys again next week. Thanks so much.